Welcome to this edition of SAU Magazine, a weekly program featuring news, profiles, sports, commentary, interviews, and special events, all coming to you from the campus of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
This is SAU Today, and this is Sara Bird.
And I'm Mike Lancaster. Today we're talking with the new SAU tennis coach, Eric Sixbey. Thanks for being here today, Eric.
It's a pleasure.
How were you chosen over all the other candidates to be the SAU tennis coach?
Well, I don't know that there were any other candidates. I think I was the only one, so made it a pretty easy choice.
I heard there's kind of an interesting story that you were just standing out in your yard and you heard the job was opening.
Right. The former coach, Chris Blair, drove by, decided he was going to get married, said, asked me if I was interested in the job. I said yes, interviewed with W.T. Watson, and he offered me a job, and I took it.
Have you always wanted to coach?
It's always been in the back of my mind, and this was a job that I couldn't really pass up, a college job. Especially for me, I'm pretty young to be a head coach of a college program.
What kind of experience do you have, that really qualified you for the job?
Well, I've played tennis since I was 5 years old. Played junior tournaments in the state. Played high school tennis. Was an honorable mention All-American high school player. Played at SAU for 2 years. Was an all-district player, and I have about 15 years experience in the sport, even though I am only 23 years old.
How did you get started as a 5-year-old? Was there someone else in your family that played that encouraged you?
Right. My whole family were tennis players and still are. I had brothers who I rivaled with throughout my growing up. So, started with the family.
Is there any organized association in Magnolia as far as tennis goes to encourage youngsters to get into that game?
There's a community service program put on by SAU. Besides that, there's no other organized tennis in Magnolia.
Well, how would a young person who wants to play tennis, how would they get involved?
Well, they could get in with this community service clinic, or they could start taking private lessons, which I teach and another player teaches, or just round up friends and start playing.
Well, where can you be reached for someone who would like to have tennis lessons?
Call me at my office at 235-4144 at home, 1548.
You did play on the SAU tennis team?
Sure did.
What kind of record did you have with the team?
In 1987, my freshman year, we were the district champions, and I think I was like 36-7 that year, and my second year I don't really know how well I did. But
did you play just team tennis, or did you play individual, or what kind of setup was that?
We played dual matches, which team against team, lineup against lineup.
Whereabouts did you do this competition? How far widespread did you go?
Anywhere from Baylor University in Waco we played, Oklahoma City, all over Arkansas, Belhaven in Mississippi, so pretty much throughout the South.
Well, it's very impressive that being as young as you are and right out of college that you are a head coach at a university in Arkansas. But what do you think that you will bring to the team as a coach different than the other coaches in the past?
As a player, I was real aggressive, and hopefully through being such an aggressive player, I hope to be an aggressive coach, meaning bring a lot of weight training into our practice program, get my players stronger, get more aggressive as players, just pretty much more aggressive play.
Now, SAU has a pretty good history as far as their tennis program goes. They usually do pretty well. How do you think this team is going to shape up, this year's team?
Well, last year they won the district tournament, but they were second in the AIC behind Ouachita, so hopefully we'll be right up there, one or two again coming up here.
How many players are on the team?
Right now I have 5 returning players, 2 of which were ineligible last year, but will be eligible this year, and I hope to get 3 more recruits coming in.
Are there any women on the tennis team?
There is a women's team, which I don't coach. Michelle Schubert coaches, and I think they finished 3rd or 4th last year.
Which players should we look forward to seeing, or which players will stand out on the team?
Last year, freshman Kevin Evie was undefeated in dual match play, so he was all AIC as a freshman, which is really impressive. So he should be the player to watch next year.
If you have a real impressive player, how far can they go in tournament play to where if they're good enough to compete in these big tournaments, how would they go about doing something like that?
In the national tournament, that's really where you prove how good you are compared to the whole nation. SAU, which doesn't offer tennis scholarships, it's hard to compete with the other big schools, tennis schools, which offer the scholarships. There were players at the national tournament in Kansas City who had world rankings, so a realistic goal for someone from SAU win 3 rounds at nationals would be really good.
Something that's always interested me is the young tennis player like Tracy Austin, when she came on the scene at age 14. How did she manage to get that far at that age? To get to where she could play those matches like that.
Well, hard work, practice. She had her career cut short because of an injury, but you see Jennifer Capriati, she's 15 now, and she's right up there in the top 10 in the world. I don't know, it's really amazing how good these girls are getting so quick.
When you go out to do some recruiting, what do you look for as far as tennis players for your team?
Number one, talent. You want your team to be as good as possible. Number 2, grades. Do they have the grades? Will they be able to keep their eligibility? Pretty much that's it, ability and grades.
Well, if you can't offer scholarships, what do you offer to entice these players to come here?
Work study program. We have jobs. They work in the tennis building, keeping the lights, giving people courts. They work football games and concession stands. Odd jobs that W.T. Watson gives the players. And then if they don't qualify for work study, we have a regular work in which we can give them working in the building.
Do most of the players that you recruit, do they know about SAU? Have they heard of it before?
Not really, because the players I get are players which live pretty good ways off. I have players from Florida, California, and obviously it'd be hard for them to hear about SAU. So through letters, and there's a college recruiting program in which players send their information to, and this program sends their prospect letters to different schools. So that's usually how I get my players.
What do you expect from your players as far as when they hit campus, as far as training, and how much time do they devote to the game? In
the fall, what we mainly work on is our grades, because that's really not our season. Our season is in the spring, so we hit grades real hard. We hit the weights, get them stronger. Try not to play too much tennis because it's easy to get burnt out. So in the fall, it's grades, weights, just getting in shape. And then in the spring, matches are usually 3 times a week. So we try not to overload them with classwork. So usually academics in the fall, then in the spring's our season, so we're hitting the tennis real hard then.
Are some of your players involved in other sports as well as tennis?
Right now, Coach Toomey's working on one of my players from Trinidad, West Indies, who he had on the football field kicking, from what I hear, 55-yard field goal. So we might have a football player on the squad this year.
Do you not feel that tennis, as opposed to, say, basketball and football, is a sport that, as you become interested in it, is something that you can do for a long time in your life, and that not only can you do it for a long time, you can do it with your family as you get married, and it's something that can be done as a family.
Sure. There's not too many 55-year-old football players out there. It's not something you can put on the pads and play all your life. So, yeah, it's something you enjoy all your life.
Is this not where some of these youngsters may be coming from? Is possibly dad or mom, either one, played on a tennis team in college or high school? And
I'm sure that's how I started. I'm sure there's a lot more like that, yeah.
And so some of it's a natural talent?
Sure. Yeah.
Another thing that kind of points back to the tennis game, and it is about Arthur Ashe, and I'm sure that you've heard on the news that he has had AIDS. Do you think that his having to announce that he had this was really, did he really need to do this?
I think it was very unfortunate that he had to, because it was something that he wanted to keep private, and I think that's his business, and for him to have to come out and admit he has AIDS is, I think, it's really a shame for someone that was such a good guy to the sport of tennis. For him to be treated like this is really real bad.
He has an excellent reputation as far as a tennis player.
Exactly.
He's very, very well respected.
And now I think he's focused his aim to help in AIDS research, AIDS funding. So I think maybe some good is going to come out of this.
But even in spite of this, you think he's still going to be a good role model?
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, now that you're out of school, out of high school and out of college, and you don't compete that way against other players, is there any type of organization that you can compete in?
Yeah, there's a USTA, United States Tennis Association. They put on tournaments in the state, throughout the nation, and I'm going to take part in some of the tournaments here in the state, get a little exposure for myself, try to get ranked, maybe even try to do a little recruiting while I'm at it.
Have you played recently in a tournament?
Yes, Mike, I sure have. Didn't do too well, but hopefully I'll get it back on the practice court and do a little better next time.
In your tennis playing, have you ever come up against anyone who went on to national tournaments, or really went quite a ways with tennis?
Not me personally, but right now there's a player who's a pro at a Little Rock Tennis Club named Peter Doohan, who upset Boris Becker about 5 years ago at Wimbledon. So there is definitely some talent out there in Arkansas.
Is that the same Peter Doohan that was at the University of Arkansas?
Sure is. He was a standout there, All-American at Arkansas.
What is your opinion of the tennis players who continue to try to compete, as such as John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, as they get older? Do you think it's something we're going to see more of, and possibly they'll eventually come up with a seniors, like they have with golf, a seniors organization?
I think he's definitely inspired some players to stick in the game a little while longer. And there already is a seniors circuit in tennis, so that's already in place. But yeah, he definitely will show the older guys out there that there's still some life out there after 35 or so.
SAU Magazine is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.